NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060 KDUS Tempe, Phoenix, and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale, Phoenix.
You are listening to the Lance J Radio Network on NBC Sports.
The year was 1992, as my grandfather likes to say when he's counting years off. I remember, and you're listening to Black Moon, Who Got the Props. Back in 1992, I was just about to go into high school, so kind of showing my age. Summer of 92, I'm just getting introduced to hardcore hip-hop music. I had grown up listening to the soft stuff, really loved Criss Cross and loved the youngsters. Then I got into Tribe Called Quest, got into De La Soul, but I had never had an album that had any type of swearing or profanity or anything like that on it. In 1992, I was in Huntsville, Alabama at Madison Square Mall, which is the now defunct Madison Square Mall. And I bought this single, Who Got the Props. I can't even repeat the name of the song on the B-side of the single. This is back when Black Moon was on Nervous Records. It was the first album I had that had a parental advisory explicit lyrics sticker. And that was like a big deal because it's like, wow, I'm listening to something that's profane and it's taboo, and it was a really, really big deal. And then obviously you get into some of the hardcore rap that came in 1992, 93, Wu-Tang Clan, Dr. Dre. My mind was completely destroyed, and I was a corrupted young man. The reason that I opened the show with Black Moon, Who Got the Props, and kind of my story of a coming-of-age story about hip-hop. This week, the Supreme Court of the United States decided to put a parental advisory sticker on sports gambling. And back when people did the parental advisory, you had the albums like Luke that were really taboo, nobody wanted to listen to. We thought that the parental advisory sticker would keep people from buying vulgar hip-hop albums. What it actually did, it created a new genre of hip-hop called gangster rap. You're listening to the Paragon of Sports Talk Excellence, the Lance J Radio Network, coming to you live from NBC Sports Radio, KDUS, the Deuce Studios, 1060 in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. I'm your host, James Lewis III. It's a pleasure to be with you on a Sunday night. I have a very special guest, one of my former players. A lot of people don't know that before I was an excellent radio host, I was actually an excellent basketball coach. And one of my former players that lives out in Phoenix used to play for me back in the Columbus, Ohio days, Geraldi Mathurin, is in the booth with me. I like to call him G-Money. That's what I called him back when he was 17 and shooting that broke jumper. He's sitting next to me in the booth today. We're gonna talk about some old times.
What's going on, y'all?
What's going on, man? It's good to have you in the booth, man. I'm very proud of the adult that you've become. I remember we're going to talk about that in the third segment. But I remember some of the technical fouls and some of the temper tantrums that you used to throw when I was coaching you, and to see the man that you've become and getting married and building a house, I'm just very proud of you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Sometimes you got to change, you know.
Absolutely. But it's funny, kind of going back to my opening monologue, people thought that putting a advisory sticker on hip-hop was going to hurt hip-hop sales. It actually increased hip-hop sales. People think that putting a metaphoric advisory on sports so you can gamble is going to kind of create awareness. People think that it's going to be a deterrent, that there'll be these social campaigns about not gambling. And what I'm saying is, just like the very people, the powers that be who benefited off of the prolific sales of gangster rap, we need to follow the money. because I believe that this is a scam, and I haven't heard a lot of people talking about this. This is not about gambling. People that gamble, they're going to find their fix. They're going to find their vice, whether they're in Vegas, whether they're offshore, whether it's FanDuel, whether it's on the net. People that are prolific gamblers, they're going to spend that money. People like myself who are extremely cheap and do not like to spend money, we're going to gamble a couple of $100 once a year, and that's going to be it. It's not going to change my behavior. But what we're opening up with this decision by the Supreme Court to allow states to make the decision on sports book making, what we're opening up is the opportunity for ESPN, Google, Sprint, Instagram, Facebook to create television shows, programming, because that's where the money comes from. The money's not coming from average 9-to-5 guy. And like I stated, the person who's a prolific gambler that puts his house mortgage up, the person that puts their college kids' tuition up, that person's going to get their fix regardless. But what happens now, and if you look up Brent Musburger, who's retired from calling college football games, he has a very strong network going on Sirius XM radio. He's doing these gambling type. If you ever seen the movie Casino and you remember Ace Rosenthal, the Ace Rosenthal character in Casino, when he doesn't get his license and he goes on TV and has his own show, that's basically what Brent Musburger has become. He's literally broadcasting his show from brothels in Nevada, talking about the VIG, talking about the spread. I go to Vegas a lot. I think that it's funny. I've been out there during March Madness. You see people that are gambling the Duke Mercer, the 1 versus 16 seed game, and the people that are upset because somebody from Mercer hit a 3 with 7 seconds left to close the gap to 31 points and the over-under, and now they've lost. Then you have people that get into the 3-team parlay, which I'm not a gambler, so I don't even really understand conceptually what that means or why somebody would do that. I've heard of a 5-team parlay, but what this creates is an opportunity for ESPN to have a television show with Big Vito from the Bronx talking about the VIG. And that's something that we haven't had in this market before. Just like in hip-hop, when you open the door for gangsta rap, what that truly opened the door for was for Yo MTV Raps to start featuring Dr. Dre and Snoop. It opened the door for Big Tigger on BET. It opened the door for Rap City. It opened the door for the Jukebox Network. And that's where the true payout comes from. It's not coming from the degenerate gambler. It's coming from the revenue stream for the various programs that will proliferate both the internet, cable television, and the radio. That gets more people listening to the radio, gets more people watching, and it allows all of these large networks to charge more for ad space. And that's the issue that's going on. I don't think that anyone else is really seeing that, but I see it. And I think that it's interesting because gambling is such a taboo subject. And in this country, there's so many people that are moralists that take the moral high ground on various issues. And I find that to be very funny because everybody's a moralist until there's a situation that impacts you. And when a situation impacts you, then your moral high ground goes out the window because you revert to the things that you need to survive and the things that you need, the building blocks that you've built your personal existence on. So that's kind of my take to start on gambling. I want to introduce, and we kind of did a brief introduction, but wanted to introduce Giraldi. I wouldn't say Giraldi is a member of the ticket, but I've been trying to get you into the booth to talk about hoops and talk about the old days for a long time, man. Tell the audience a little bit, and we only have a couple minutes before the break, but tell the audience a little bit, where do you know the host from? What is your relationship with me?
Well, basically, when I first moved to Columbus, Ohio, I really met you at a church. It was a basketball league, and I was very much starving to play some basketball, and that's how we kind of met. And we went on from there, really. And to be honest, that was probably the funnest time I've had playing basketball, and probably taught me a lot more life lessons than it actually did when I was in high school. Because I enjoyed being around that environment and the way you coached. And, you just basically knew how to bring all the players together. Every single one has their defects and put it all together. And we really did something special that season, which was pretty wild. So that's kind of my relationship with the host. You've been a pretty good coach. It was more like a family. A lot of us spent a lot of time with you over the weekend. We'd drive to other cities and play basketball. So it all became like a family. Certain guys are still in our life now. Who would have known 10 years from now I'd still be here with you?
I'm in Terrell's wedding in August, man.
Right, and he's getting married. He's even changed too. You thought I was a knucklehead.
Right.
Believe me, it's crazy, man, how things change.
Now, do you remember, and I know the break's coming in soon, but one memory that I have of you, and then the music's coming in, I'm going to tease it. I have a memory of my former player, G Money. We were in Dayton playing a playoff game, and he got into an altercation with the referee. We're not going to talk about that now. Come back. Just give you a reason to continue to tune in. You're listening to the Lance J Radio Network on NBC Sports Radio. We'll be back after these messages.